She hadn't spoken to anyone for days. Her phone sat on the edge of the sink, buzzing every now and then with unread messages, none from the person she desperately needed to reach. The nurse's hands trembled as she wrapped another piece of gauze around her wrist. Another sleepless night, another unanswered prayer. She had seen something she wasn't supposed to. It was a normal shift, long hours, tired feet, late coffee, but what she saw in room 314 would never leave her memory. Your sister had been wheeled in unconscious, bruises barely beginning to bloom across her neck. The attending doctor tried to whisper instructions quietly, but the words slipped out like shards of glass. Don't record anything. No police. Private request. The nurse froze. She wasn't new to secrets. She'd seen celebrities checked in under fake names, private security looming outside the door. But this was different. The fear that clung to your sister wasn't the kind that comes from an accident. It was deliberate, targeted, and hidden behind a wall of false medical records. She'd memorized your sister's chart, not because she was curious, but because something felt wrong. Very wrong. The chart said a fall-related injuries, but the injuries told another story. Strangulation. Fractured wrist from defensive force. The subtle bruising behind the ears. The unmistakable fingerprint-like imprints. Then she heard the name whispered in the hallway by one of the aides. That's her. That's the girl whose family's being watched. That night, while the floor was quiet, she took photos of the report. Not out of rebellion. Out of fear. Your sister mumbled something in her unconscious state that haunts the nurse still. Please, he broken bar, don't tell a broken bar. He said he'd come for all of us. The next morning, the bed was empty. The official report read a discharge at family's request. Apostrophe, but there was no discharge signed. The file was wiped clean. It was like your sister was never there. She tried reaching out to hospital administration, but they hushed her with paperwork. Confidentiality. Legal threats. You must be mistaken. Room 314 was empty that night. She wasn't. And she knew if she stayed quiet, she would become part of the cover-up. She started searching on Linea using only public Wi-Fi, switching SIM cards, masking her IP. She searched every combination of names, photos, old Facebook comments, family tags. That's how she found you. The photos of you and your sister at a family gathering 2 years ago. The matching tattoos. The smiles. She studied your face for hours. You were the only connection left to someone who might still care enough to notice your sister was missing. But how do you tell someone that everything they know about their sibling might be a lie? She tried calling once from a blocked number, heart pounding, but your voicemail picked up. Her message was scrambled, nervous. You don't know me, boot to broken bar your sister, she's not okay. Please, don't ignore this. She hung up before she could say more. Then the threats started. She found a note on her locker at the hospital. Curiosity kills. Stay out of what you don't understand. The next day, someone followed her car after work. When she turned suddenly, they disappeared. The tires on her car were slashed a week later. No police report. No cameras. But the nurse didn't stop. She mailed a letter. A long one, without a return address. Telling everything she remembered: dates, times, faces, phrases your sister whispered, even the unique scar above her collarbone. She thought surely you'd believe that. Surely you'd know that detail. But days passed. Weeks. And still no response. She began to worry. Had the letter been intercepted? Were you even alive? Could it be that the people watching your sister were now watching you too? Last night, she received an email from an unknown sender. A video. Just 3 seconds. Blurry, dark, but your sister's face was in it. Her eyes swollen, a tremble in her jaw. And one word, help. A broken bar. She played it on repeat. Again and again. Each time, her resolve grew stronger. She doesn't know if she'll survive what she's doing. But she's making one last attempt. Right now, at this very moment, she is sitting in an old bus station terminal 2 cities away from you. She's waiting for a man who claims he can get her to you safely. A man who used to work in intelligence but now lives in hiding. He told her, if what you're saying is true, this is bigger than her. This is about you. About her family. They're not just covering something up, how they're trying to erase bloodlines. She doesn't know if she can trust him. But she knows she's running out of time. And if you're reading this, or hearing this message, she begs you don't ignore it. Don't write her off as a lunatic. Go back and check. Call every hospital. Every friend. Every place your sister could have vanished into. Look behind the smiles in your recent photos. Listen to the silences in her texts. Ask yourself why she hasn't reached out. Because somewhere out there, a nurse is risking everything, hunted by shadows, haunted by a whisper, holding on to the truth and praying that somehow, you'll believe her before it's too late. She hasn't eaten a full meal in days. Not because she can't, but because her stomach turns with every new piece of information. Every shadow that passes the window feels like a threat. Every unknown number on her screen feels like a countdown. She's a nurse, trained in crisis, in calm, in composure. But nothing prepared her for this. And it all began the night your sister arrived in silence. There was no ambulance. No sirens. No stretcher. Just a black SUV with tinted windows, pulling into the hospital's rear dock around 3:17 a.m. The security cameras were conveniently offline that night. The driver wore gloves. The man in the passenger seat never got out, but his eyes followed every move. He had the air of someone with power, a military posture, political presence, or worse, underworld calm. Your sister didn't walk in. She was carried. Unconscious. Her blouse was torn at the shoulder. Blood had dried along her temple. Her fingernails had broken, some still carrying skin under them. The intake nurse, shaken, called for the head nurse to see her. And when she approached, something inside her spirit shifted. Your sister's chart was already typed. Already printed. Already signed. All it needed was a nurse's initials. But the injury descriptions were vague. Blunt force trauma. Minor abrasions. That wasn't what she saw. The angle of bruising. The finger-width marks around her neck. The pedicule hemorrhaging in her eye, a textbook indicator of strangulation. She tried to speak, but one of the men stepped forward, handed her a folder. This patient was never here. And then he said something that chilled her to the bone, unless you want what happened to her to happen to you. She should have walked away. Pretended not to care. But when your sister opened her eyes, just for a second, they locked. And in them was one message, one desperate scream without sound, please. So she stayed. She watched. She listened. She found out the men weren't strangers. One of them was your sister's ex. A name whispered among security. A name linked to shell corporations and dark money. A man whose family had once been allies with Yrsa until something broke. A betrayal. A debt. A forbidden romance. She didn't know the full story, but she knew enough to know this went beyond hospitals and bruises. And then she heard something she'll never forget. Your sister, slipping in and out of sedation, whispered, "He made me sign it. He made me sign it. If I disappear, it's done. My name. Don't. Everything. Don't. He owns it all." Those words echoed in her mind for days. She began to investigate in silence. Late nights, VPN, ghost accounts. She found your sister's name linked to an offshore trust. Money moving in her name in millions. But it wasn't her doing it. Someone had forged power of attorney. Someone had planted false psychiatric evaluations to declare her unstable. Someone was stealing not just her voice, but her existence. And then something else surfaced, an audio file. It came from an anonymous tip left in the hospital locker room. A voice memo, distorted. It sounded like a conversation recorded through a wall. A man, she won't talk. She knows what'll happen to her family. A woman, what if she breaks? What if she tells her sibling? The man, then her sibling disappears too. She dropped the phone. That was the moment she realized that you were in danger too. And so she ran. She quit the hospital. Deleted all her social profiles. Used burner phones. Changed locations every 3 days. Because she knew if they had erased your sister, they wouldn't hesitate to erase anyone else who got close. But still, she searched for you. Through private investigator forums, she tracked your address. She found a parcel delivery service that used to receive letters from your sister. She found a diary page that had one phrase circled in red, "They don't know about my sibling. They can't find them. That's my only hope. You." She didn't sleep that night. The next morning, she received a single text from an unknown number, "We warned you." No sender. No trace. When she returned to her motel, her room had been ransacked. Nothing stolen. Just examined. Her laptop screen had a single crack in the corner, as if a message had been sent. And yet she didn't stop. She booked a train. No ID. Cash only. She boarded in the dead of night, holding a small box under her arm. Inside the box was everything: evidence, photos, forged papers, bank transactions, screenshots of texts, and a video that no one was supposed to see. A video that showed your sister at a private estate weeks after her supposed discharge. She was sitting in a dim room, dressed in white, like a patient. But her eyes said they were awake. Alert. Desperate. In the background, someone was speaking about control. About breaking family bloodlines. About silencing the last one who knows. You. The nurse recorded a message last night before boarding the final train toward your city. Greater than: if I don't make it a broken bar. I've hidden everything inside a red envelope beneath a church pew 3 blocks from your street. The church with the broken cross window. 3rd pew from the left. I had no choice. I had to leave it there. It's the only place I trust they won't check. Please. Please get to it. Before they do. She's still alive. But not for long. And if they find you before you find Ida, run. This is your moment. This is your only chance to know the truth. She has risked her job, her name, her life. And somewhere in the dark corridors of this starry broken bar your sister is still breathing. Still waiting. Still hoping someone hears her cry. The nurse is still moving city to city, being chased, watched, erased. And you? You are the last one left who can bring it all into the light. Somewhere in the heart of the city, a woman who was once just a nurse now moves like a fugitive. Her name is no longer safe. Her badge number has been flagged. Her face has appeared on quiet warning boards shared only among certain networks and networks with money, reach, and no rules. The deeper she dug into your sister's disappearance, the more the shadows around her grew. She wasn't just being followed now, she was being studied. Her calls were being intercepted. Her apartment was broken into again, this time with surgical precision. Nothing stolen. Only a single note left on her kitchen counter, written in your sister's handwriting: "Stop. Or they'll take you too." She held it in her hands for hours. She could feel your sister's presence in the ink, but also the terror behind the message. She knew your sister hadn't written it willingly. She knew this wasn't a warning, it was a threat. But the nurse had made her choice the moment she saw the truth. She would not be silent. She moved again, this time to a rural safe house, an old barn renovated by a friend from her childhood who owed her a favor. No internet. No cameras. No GPS. Just journals, printed documents, and a corkboard filled with strings and pins. Every clue, every lead, every name connected to your sister's vanishing. One name kept appearing. A man connected to your family in the past. Someone your sister dated years ago. Someone who had access to both government circles and offshore banking networks. She discovered he had donated large amounts to certain rehabilitation facilities, places where women are sent, not to heal, but to be silenced. Drugged. Rewritten. One facility stood out. A private hospital tucked behind a false medical name, in a secluded forest compound. She tried to visit. They turned her away at the gate. But as she left, she noticed something strange, a red scarf snagged in the fence. Your sister once posted a photo wearing that same scarf. Her knees buckled. She sat in her car for an hour, breath shaking, pulse in her throat. She knew she had to go back, but not alone. She needed someone who still had power, someone inside the system. That's when she contacted the man named Gabriel. Gabriel was once part of military intelligence. A man who now lived off-grid, after exposing a trafficking ring in a European medical firm. He lost everything for what he revealed, but not his instincts. When she told him your sister's story, he didn't even blink. Greater than they're using your sister to access something. Bloodline. Name. Legacy. This isn't about love, this is about inheritance, control. They're rewriting her identity because hers unlocked something, a broken bar, and they don't want the world to know. She showed him the documents. The hospital photos? The offshore accounts linked to your sister's signature. That's when he looked at her and said, greater than, she's not the only one. They've done this before. They erase people from their own stories. He agreed to help. But under one condition: once she contacts you, she must vanish. Because the people involved, the ones who have your sister, have no limits. They operate across borders. They infiltrate systems. They can silence courts, buy judges, erase data trails, and make even death certificates appear real. And they are watching you now. Yes, you. Because they know your sister never gave up on you. She left small messages. Passwords on old devices. Coded phrases and letters. A drop of hope in every goodbye. She knew one day you'd start asking questions. And that day is now. If you're feeling like things around you have become strange and unusual, glitches in your phone, missed calls from unknown numbers, people staring a little too long in public, it's not your imagination. They're trying to decide if you're a threat, or just another ghost to erase. But here's what they don't know: the nurse has left behind everything. A confession video. An encrypted flash drive hidden in a public locker. A black notebook buried beneath the oldest oak tree behind your childhood home, where your sister used to tie ribbons. Inside that notebook is every step of this nightmare. Names. Timelines. Locations. Passwords. Even the original medical report from the night your sister arrived unconscious in room 314. If they get to it before you, it's gone. If you find it first, you have the power to expose everything. But you have to act now. Because the nurse is already missing. Gabriel received a final text from her last night: they found me. I heard someone outside. If I don't contact you by sunrise, they've taken me. Please get this to the sibling. They are the last chance she has. The message ended at 2:47 a.m. Since then, silence. Her apartment was emptied. Her phone destroyed. Her car found abandoned at a bridge. No body. No blood. Just a single item left on the passenger seat: your sister's red scarf. You may be wondering why all this has come to you. The truth is, you are not just a relative. You are a key. You are the name they didn't anticipate. You are the signature that cannot be forged. You are the memory that cannot be erased. And if you follow the trail, if you are willing to dig past the fear, you'll find not just the broken bar but your sister, still alive, still waiting, still praying that her only hope will come looking. Listen carefully. This is no longer a coincidence. This is a divine assignment. What you do next determines whether justice rises as a broken bar or whether her story becomes just another file buried under silence. And as long as you are breathing, they haven't won yet. She first heard the voice again 2 nights ago. Not in a dream, not in a memory, but through the thin walls of the cheap motel room she had taken refuge in after crossing 3 state lines. It was your sister's voice. Faint. Muffled. From the next room, or perhaps the floor below. At first, she thought it was grief making ghosts out of echoes. But the voice was real. And it said the same thing twice: "They're drugging me. Please, he broken bar, find my blood." She sat up in bed, heart racing. Find my blood? What did that mean? She knew this wasn't metaphor. Your sister had been talking about something literal. A vial. A test. A result. Something they were hiding, something inside her that they needed. And that's when the nurse remembered the locked drawer in the lab. The one accessed the night your sister was admitted. A sample had been taken. But not for normal testing. It was shipped out a special courier, unmarked box, no hospital seal. And the label? Project St. P. She had dismissed it at the time, assuming it was some elite code for insurance billing or private data protection. But now, everything pointed to it being a genetic program, something highly secretive and clearly dangerous. Something your sister had unknowingly been a part of. The nurse returned to the hospital one final time. Dressed in plain clothes, glasses, a wig. She went in through the old loading dock, just like that night. The security cameras had been upgraded, but she knew where they still had blind spots. She didn't go to the nurse's station. She went straight to the cold room where blood vials were kept. Room was padlocked now. Biometric access only. But she had a trick, a sample glove with her old chief's fingerprint taken weeks ago during a staged handshake. She got in. And what she found made her drop to her knees. Rows and rows of samples. But not just your sister's. Dozens. Hundreds. Labeled by bloodline, not patient name. And in the top left tray, tucked behind a fake wall, a vial marked with your sister's real name, a broken bar and yours. She froze. They had you both. They weren't just watching. They were harvesting. Studying. Tracking what was inside you. Rare blood markers. Ancient lineage. Something they believed held power. Not mythological power, biological power. The kind of DNA that can either destroy generational curses or unlock ones locked for centuries. This was no longer about jealousy, revenge, or control. This was experimentation. Your sister had uncovered it accidentally, likely through a relative, a hidden will, or a document she was never supposed to read. And once they knew Sheena broken bar, they made her vanish. And you? You were left untouched only because they thought you were blind. But that's over now. because the nurse took the vial. She risked everything, stuffed it into her coat, and fled. She knew they'd find out soon. She didn't care anymore. She mailed the vial, packaged inside an old children's book with a false barcode, to an underground journalist known only by the code name Lazarus. Lazarus is known for resurrecting dead stories. And now your sister's story was in his hands. But even that wasn't the end. The nurse didn't run this time. She went to the estate. The one where she believed your sister was still being kept. She took a body cam, a burner phone, and the last bit of hope she had. Her last message to Gabriel was a voice memo.